Hello everybody, welcome back to Blunt Ape. By popular demand, today we are going to have a look at ego death. The aim is to identify what ego is, understand what it does to us, why it can be a problem, and see how we can kill it. If it proves too difficult to kill, we are going to look at a few ways of tempering it at least. Let's jump straight into it and define ego. A person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. This, in my view, can be translated as: my value is whatever I want it to be, I hold myself in very high regard, I respect myself, and I demand respect from you too. I think we are already seeing a pattern here, and the key is right in the definition: self-importance, self-worth, self-esteem. Ego, whether we like it or not, has zero to do with our actual objective worth and importance on this planet. Ego is a metric, a value system relevant only to ourselves and completely irrelevant and invisible to others. They can't see it, but they'll certainly hear about it if they accidentally bump into your ego and damage it. Philosophers and sociologists have spent lifetimes describing ego in the most eloquent ways, but none of them have been able to show you what ego actually looks like. All of that changes today, as I've come across an image that depicts the notion of ego quite accurately, I believe. Ego, dear viewers, is a small, tacky, fragile trinket, special and dear to you and you alone. You are born with this trinket, and for the first few years of your life, it's the only thing that defines you. You cherish it, nurture it, polish it, and carry it with you everywhere you go. In some cases, you give it so much attention that you start expecting others to do the same. When they don't, it starts affecting you deeply. How can something so important, so beautiful, so well looked after not receive others' appreciation and respect? Remember though, this trinket is special only to you. Others may see it as a bit cheesy and somewhat annoying to deal with. In some cases, the ego is so fragile and it takes up so much space that people may have to start tiptoeing around you to avoid accidentally damaging this ego. Things get considerably more complicated if, as an adult, you start believing that ego is all you have to your name. You are then bound to start defending it more and more aggressively without exception or excuse. In sociology, for example, this reaction is thought to be a main factor in young male gang violence. When all you have is your honor and self-esteem, it becomes critical to defend against any slight, against any comment undermining your only prized possession. And you do that as violently as needed to deter any other attempts as well. To add to this existential problem, keep in mind that everyone else also carries a similar trinket with them. And they care about theirs a lot more than they care about yours, which is absolutely natural. I think we are starting to see how this can create considerable friction and headaches. But more importantly, the moment everyone's got one of these unique prized possessions, what's so special about them anymore? Imagine for a second everyone owning a painting of the Mona Lisa. Not worth the $900 million anymore, is it? Okay, we've identified the ego, we understand some of the things it does. How do we actually deal with it? The strongest-willed people among you may be able to simply think it out of existence. Starting tomorrow, ego simply does not exist to you, will not hinder you, and you can focus on more important aspects. The rest of us, though, may have to put in a bit more work. What I propose we do is to overwhelm the ego, this subjective sense of value, with actual objective value, worth and accomplishments. Doing this is surprisingly easier than you think. I'll give you a stupidly simple example. I'm doing this episode of the Blunt Ape in English, which is not my native language. I did research for this episode. I wrote a script and rewrote it a few more times to make it more interesting and concise. This in itself is an accomplishment and creates objective value for you, for me, however little value that may be. We live such complex and complicated lives that it's enough to reach the end of a day and you can easily add 2 or 3 things to your list of accomplishments. Manage to navigate a stressful situation at work? I can't always do that, so good for you, that takes skill. You read a book and your knowledge on something has expanded by even a tiny %? That's objective value again. You can do parallel parking, teach someone else to do it too, spread the value. Do this for a few minutes and you will easily rack up an entire list of actual, objective, valuable personal traits. Some more important than others, but all of them adding to an ever-expanding list of what actually defines you. The subjective ego will eventually pale in comparison and crack under the weight of objective values. The moment you switch from subjective to objective, it becomes so much easier to deal with criticism, with feedback, and even with cheap shots and personal attacks. If I call you worthless to your face, that stops at merely being a silly, misguided attack coming from a rude person, instead of it ruining your entire day or week. It won't have any lasting effects on you because it's a blatant lie, and you have the list of achievements to prove it. I will end this episode with an anecdote which hopefully illustrates some of the above points. I recently walked into a bakery while wearing my motorcycling kit, helmet in hand. The person at the till looked at me and loudly asked if I'm the delivery person there to pick up an order. I looked at them confused. People queuing up looked at me confused. I said I'm there just to buy a muffin. This is the classic walking into a restaurant to eat and someone confuses you for the waiter. Well, as the people at the till started blushing and awkwardly apologizing for the confusion, I started laughing. The confusion was understandable, no one died in the exchange, and it gave me the idea for this episode. Win-win.